Listen, when you're a nurse, you get used to keeping your professional and personal lives separate. It's the first rule they teach you. But I never expected that one chance encounter outside the hospital at midnight would destroy every boundary I'd ever built. And I definitely didn't expect that 6 weeks later, I'd be standing in front of the nursing board defending my entire career. Or that 2 months after that, I'd watch everything I'd fought for crumble anyway. Let me take you back to that night, because the story starts with rain, a broken umbrella, and a man I was supposed to keep at arm's length. It was a Friday night in Boston, and I'd just finished a brutal 12-hour shift in the cardiac unit at Massachusetts General Hospital. My feet were killing me, my scrubs were stained with God knows what, and all I wanted was to get home, take a hot shower, and collapse into bed. I was 28 years old, 3 years into my nursing career, and I loved my job. But nights like this made me question every life choice I'd ever made. The rain started the moment I stepped outside. Not a gentle drizzle, a full-on downpour that soaked through my jacket in seconds. I fumbled with my umbrella, but the cheap thing turned inside out immediately, leaving me standing there like an idiot while rain poured down my face. "Damn it," I muttered, trying to fix the broken umbrella while my bag slipped off my shoulder. "Need some help?" I looked up and my heart stopped. Standing there with a large black umbrella, looking entirely too put together for midnight in a rainstorm, was Ethan Morrison, room 412, cardiac patient, the man I'd been taking care of for the past 2 weeks after his emergency bypass surgery. "Mr. Morrison," I straightened up, immediately shifting into professional mode despite looking like a drowned lad. "What are you doing out here? You were discharged this morning. Is everything okay? Are you experiencing any symptoms?" He smiled, and something about that smile made my stomach flip. "I'm fine, Nurse Harper, and it's Ethan. I think after you've seen me in a hospital gown, we can drop the formalities." I felt my cheeks heat up despite the cold rain. "Still, you should be home resting, not standing outside a hospital in a storm. I could say the same about you." He moved closer, holding the umbrella over both of us. "You look exhausted." The sudden shelter from the rain felt intimate. Wrong. We were standing too close. I could smell his cologne, something expensive that didn't belong in the sterile world I usually occupied. "I just finished my shift," I said, taking a small step back. "I'm fine." "You're soaking wet and your umbrella's destroyed." He gestured to the mangled thing in my hands. "Let me give you a ride home." "That's not necessary. It's pouring rain, it's midnight, and you look dead on your feet." His voice was gentle but firm. "Please, let me do this. You took care of me for 2 weeks. Let me return the favor." Every instinct told me to say no. He was a patient, former patient technically, but still, there were rules about this, boundaries, ethics. But I was so tired, and it was raining so hard, and the tea would take an hour to get home at this time of night. "Okay," I heard myself say. "Thank you." His car was parked in the visitor lot, a sleek black Mercedes that probably cost more than I made in 2 years. Of course, I'd seen his chart. Ethan Morrison, 35, successful venture capitalist, private insurance that covered everything. He wasn't like most of the patients I treated. He opened the passenger door for me and I slid into the leather seat, hyper aware of how out of place I looked in my cheap scrubs and soaked jacket. "Where do you live?" he asked, starting the engine. "Alston, off Commonwealth Ave." I rattled off my address, then immediately regretted it. I'd just given a former patient my home address. What was I thinking? We drove in silence for a few minutes, the only sound the rain hammering against the windshield and the soft hum of the heater. "I wanted to thank you," Ethan said suddenly, "for everything you did during my stay." "That's my job," I said automatically. "It's more than that." He glanced at me. "You were kind, not just professional, genuinely kind. You talked to me like I was a person, not just a patient. You remembered that I was afraid of needles and always warned me before injections. You brought me real coffee when I was going crazy from the hospital stuff. You stayed late one night just to talk when I was having a panic attack about the surgery." I remembered that night. He'd been terrified, trying to hide it but failing. I pulled up a chair and sat with him for an hour after my shift ended, just talking about normal things, books, movies, life, anything to distract him from his fear. "Anyone would have done the same," I said quietly. "No, they wouldn't have. You went above and beyond, and I noticed. I wanted you to know that." Something in his tone made me look at him, really look at him. In the dim light from the dashboard, I could see the intensity in his eyes, the way his jaw was set. This wasn't just gratitude. This was something more. Mr. Morrison. Ethan. Ethan, I corrected, my heart racing. I appreciate the thanks, but you should know that what I did was just part of providing good patient care. It doesn't mean... I stopped, unsure how to finish. Doesn't mean what? He pulled up to a red light and turned to face me fully. It doesn't mean anything beyond that, I said firmly. I'm your nurse, was your nurse. There are boundaries. What if I don't want boundaries? The words hung in the air between us. That's not your choice to make, but my voice came out shakier than I intended. There are ethics rules, professional standards. I could lose my license. For what? I'm not your patient anymore. I was discharged this morning. Technically, there's nothing wrong with us having a conversation. This feels like more than a conversation. He smiled slightly. Does it? The light turned green. He started driving again, but the tension in the car was suffocating. You felt it too, he said after a moment. During those 2 weeks, I know you did. I wanted to deny it. I should have denied it, but he was right. There had been something between us from the first day, a connection that went beyond nurse and patient. The way our conversations flowed so easily, the way he smiled when I walked into his room, the way my heart skipped when I checked his vitals and his hand would accidentally brush mine. It doesn't matter what I felt, I said. It can't matter. Why not? Because you were vulnerable, you were scared and in pain, and I was the person taking care of you. Any feelings you think you have, they're not real. They're just gratitude mixed with proximity. It happens all the time. Don't do that. His voice had an edge now. Don't diminish what I'm feeling by calling it some psychological phenomenon. I'm not confused. I'm not transferring emotions. I'm a grown man who knows exactly what he feels. And what do you feel? The question came out before I could stop it. He pulled up in front of my building and put the car in park. Then he turned to face me completely. I feel like I've been waiting my whole life to meet someone who sees me the way you do. Not my money or my success or what I can do for them. Just me, the scared guy in a hospital gown who couldn't sleep and was terrified of dying at 35. His voice was raw. You sat with me. You talked to me about stupid movies and terrible hospital food. You made me feel human again. And somewhere in those 2 weeks, I fell for you, Ava Harper. Completely and terrifyingly fell for you. My breath caught. No one had ever said anything like that before me. My ex-boyfriend had told me he loved me, sure, but it had always felt obligatory, expected. This felt different, real. I can't, I whispered. I could lose everything. Then I'll wait. He reached over and took my hand, and I didn't pull away. I'll wait however long it takes. 6 months, a year, whatever the rules say. Just tell me there's a chance. Tell me I'm not crazy for feeling this way. I looked down at our joined hands. This was insane. I barely knew this man outside of his medical chart, but God, the way he was looking at me like I was something precious and rare. You're not crazy, I admitted, but this is still impossible. Nothing's impossible, he squeezed my hand. Just complicated. I should have pulled away, should have gotten out of the car and never looked back. Instead, I said, there's a rule. Healthcare workers can't pursue relationships with former patients for at least 6 months after discharge. 6 months, he nodded slowly. Okay, then in 6 months, can I take you to dinner? If you still want to in 6 months. I will. He said it with such certainty that I almost believed him. I finally pulled my hands away and opened the car door. Thank you for the ride. Ava? I turned back. Can I at least have your number? Just in case, I don't know, in case I have questions about my recovery. It was a terrible idea. I knew it was a terrible idea, but I found myself giving him my number anyway. I walked into my building without looking back, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. He texted me 3 days later. How long am I supposed to wait before asking questions about my recovery? I stared at my phone for a full minute before responding. That depends on whether you actually have questions about your recovery. What if I just want to talk to you? Then you're breaking the rules we talked about. What if I can't stop thinking about you? My hands were shaking as I typed back. Then we both have a problem. I should have blocked his number, should have reported the contact to my supervisor. Instead, I texted him back when he messaged me the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. They were innocent at first, updates on his recovery, questions about diet and exercise, but slowly they shifted into something else. He told me about his work, about the pressure of running a venture capital firm. I told him about my shifts, about the patients I couldn't save and the ones who made it all worthwhile. We talked about everything, our childhoods, his wealthy but cold, mine middle class but warm, our failed relationships, his ex-fiancée who left him for his business partner, my ex-boyfriend who said I cared more about my patients than about him, our fears and dreams, and the things we'd never told anyone else. 3 weeks after that rainy night, he called me at 2 a.m. "I can't sleep," he said when I answered, my voice groggy. "Are you having symptoms? Chest pain? Difficulty breathing?" "No, I just wanted to hear your voice." I should have hung up. Instead, I stayed on the phone with him for 2 hours, talking about nothing and everything until the sun started to rise and I had to get ready for my shift. "This is getting dangerous," I told him before we hung up. "I know," he said, "but I can't stop." "Neither can I admitted, "and that terrifies me." But then, 1 week later, everything started to unravel. I was grabbing coffee in the hospital cafeteria when I saw her, Dr. Rachel Kim, one of the attending cardiologists. She was Ethan's primary physician during his stay, and she was staring at me with an expression I couldn't read. "Ava, can we talk?" My stomach dropped. "Sure, what's up?" "In private." She gestured toward an empty corner of the cafeteria. We sat down and Dr. Kim folded her hands on the table. "I'm going to be direct. Are you in contact with Ethan Morrison?" The blood drained from my face. "Why do you ask?" "Because he came to my office yesterday for his 1-month follow-up, and he mentioned you several times in a way that suggested your relationship might be more than professional." "Dr. Kim, I'm not judging you, Ava, but I need to know, are you involved with him?" I wanted to lie. Every fiber of my being screamed to deny it, but Dr. Kim was looking at me with genuine concern, not accusation. "We've been texting," I admitted quietly, "and talking on the phone, but that's all. Nothing physical, nothing inappropriate." "Ava." Dr. Kim's voice was gentle but firm. "You know the rules, 6 months minimum, and even then, it's strongly discouraged. Patient-provider relationships have a fundamental power imbalance that doesn't just disappear because someone's been discharged." "I know, I do. But Dr. Kim, he's not vulnerable anymore. He's recovered. He's back to his normal life. We're just two adults talking." "That's not how the ethics board will see it. And Ava," she hesitated, "there's something you should know. Veronica Chen, the hospital administrator, she's Ethan's ex-fiancée." My world tilted. "What?" "They were engaged 2 years ago. It ended badly, and Veronica still works here. If she finds out about you and Ethan..." Dr. Kim trailed off meaningfully. "She'll report me. At minimum, at worst, she'll make your life hell." Dr. Kim reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'm telling you this as a friend. Cut off contact with Ethan Morrison, now, before this becomes a situation you can't control." I nodded numbly, but inside, I was panicking. How had I not known about Veronica? Why hadn't Ethan mentioned that his ex worked at the hospital? That night, I called him. "We need to talk." "Okay?" He sounded immediately concerned. "What's wrong?" "Why didn't you tell me your ex-fiancé works at MGH?" Silence. "Ethan." "I didn't think it mattered," he said finally. "We work in completely different departments. I never see her." "It matters because she has power over me. She's a hospital administrator, Ethan. She could destroy my career if she finds out about us." "She won't find out." Dr. Kim already knows something's going on. She pulled me aside today to warn me. How long before everyone knows? How long before Veronica hears rumors and decides to investigate? "Ava, calm down." "Don't tell me to calm down." I was pacing my apartment now. You have nothing to lose here. Your career isn't on the line. Mine is. And you kept this massive piece of information from me. I didn't keep it from you. It just never came up. It should have come up. The first night when you told me you were falling for me, you should have mentioned that your vindictive ex-fiancé is a hospital administrator who could ruin my life. She's not vindictive. Really? Because Dr. Kim seems to think so. He was quiet for a long moment. You're right. I should have told you. I'm sorry. Sorry isn't enough. Tears were streaming down my face. I think we need to stop this. All of it. No more texts, no more calls. We need to end this before it destroys my career. Ava, please. I can't do this anymore. I hung up before he could respond. I blocked his number, deleted all our text history, tried to pretend those 4 weeks had never happened. But 2 days later, Margaret Chen, my supervisor, called me into her office, and I knew. I just knew. Ava, sit down. I sat, my stomach twisting into knots. I've received a complaint, she said, her voice carefully neutral, about your conduct with a former patient. The room started spinning. What? Ethan Morrison, room 412, discharged 4 weeks ago. She pulled out a file. According to this complaint, you gave him your personal phone number. You've been in regular contact with him via text and phone calls, and you were seen entering his vehicle in the hospital parking lot on the night of his discharge. Is this true? I felt like I couldn't breathe. Who filed the complaint? It was submitted anonymously, but that doesn't matter. What matters is whether the allegations are accurate. I could lie, deny everything, but what was the point? If someone had seen me getting in his car, if they had proof of our texts— Yes, I whispered. It's true. She closed her eyes briefly, and I saw the disappointment wash over her face. Ava, do you understand how serious this is? The ethics alone could cost you your license, and if there's been any romantic involvement— There hasn't, I said quickly. We've just talked, just texted, that's all. Nothing physical, nothing inappropriate. Ava, Dr. Kim's voice was gentle but firm. You know the rules, 6 months minimum, and even then, it's strongly discouraged. Patient-provider relationships have a fundamental power imbalance that doesn't just disappear because someone's been discharged. I know, I do. But Dr. Kim, he's not vulnerable anymore. He's recovered. He's back to his normal life. We're just 2 adults talking. That's not how the ethics board will see it. And Ava, she hesitated. There's something you should know. Veronica Chen, the hospital administrator, she's Ethan's ex-fiancé. My world tilted. What? They were engaged 2 years ago. It ended badly, and Veronica still works here. If she finds out about you and Ethan— Dr. Kim trailed off meaningfully. She'll report me. At minimum, at worst, she'll make your life hell. Dr. Kim reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I'm telling you this as a friend. Cut off contact with Ethan Morrison, now, before this becomes a situation you can't control. I nodded numbly, but inside I was panicking. How had I not known about Veronica? Why hadn't Ethan mentioned that his ex worked at the hospital? That night, I called him. We need to talk. Okay? He sounded immediately concerned. What's wrong? Why didn't you tell me your ex-fiancé works at MGH? Silence. Ethan. I didn't think it mattered, he said finally. We work in completely different departments. I never see her. It matters because she has power over me. She's a hospital administrator, Ethan. She could destroy my career if she finds out about us. She won't find out. Dr. Kim already knows something's going on. She pulled me aside today to warn me. How long before everyone knows? How long before Veronica hears rumors and decides to investigate? Ava, calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. I was pacing my apartment now. You have nothing to lose here. Your career isn't on the line. Mine is. And you kept this massive piece of information from me. I didn't keep it from you. It just never came up. It should have come up. The first night, when you told me you were falling for me, you should have mentioned that your vindictive ex-fiancé is a hospital administrator who could ruin my life. She's not vindictive. Really? Because Dr. Kim seems to think so. He was quiet for a long moment. You're right. I should have told you. I'm sorry. Sorry isn't enough. Tears were streaming down my face. I think we need to stop this. All of it. No more texts, no more calls. We need to end this before it destroys my career. Ava, please. I can't do this anymore. I hung up before he could respond. I blocked his number, deleted all our text history, tried to pretend those 4 weeks had never happened. But 2 days later, Margaret Chen, my supervisor, called me into her office, and I knew. I just knew. Ava, sit down. I sat, my stomach twisting into knots. I've received a complaint, she said, her voice carefully neutral, about your conduct with a former patient. The room started spinning. What? Ethan Morrison, room 412, discharged 4 weeks ago. She pulled out a file. According to this complaint, you gave him your personal phone number. You've been in regular contact with him via text and phone calls, and you were seen entering his vehicle in the hospital parking lot on the night of his discharge. Is this true? I felt like I couldn't breathe. Who filed the complaint? It was submitted anonymously, but that doesn't matter. What matters is whether the allegations are accurate. I could lie, deny everything, but what was the point? If someone had seen me getting in his car, if they had proof of our texts? Yes, I whispered. It's true. She closed her eyes briefly, and I saw the disappointment wash over her face. Ava, do you understand how serious this? You were human. He moved closer. You were kind, and you got punished for it. But I'm not going to let Veronica destroy your career because she's bitter about our failed relationship. Why? I looked up at him, tears streaming down my face. Why are you doing this? We barely know each other. This could damage your reputation, your business relationships. Why risk all of that for me? Because I told you the truth that night in the rain. He cupped my face in his hands. I fell for you. And maybe it was too fast, or too complicated, or too impossible, but it was real. And I'm not going to walk away from something real just because it's hard. He kissed me then. Really kissed me. And for the first time in 2 weeks, I let myself feel something other than fear. I'm scared, I whispered when we pulled apart. So am I. He rested his forehead against mine. But I'm more scared of losing you. The hearing was scheduled for Friday morning. I walked into that conference room feeling like I was walking to my own execution. Margaret was there, the board members, a hospital attorney, and Veronica Chen, sitting in the back with her arms crossed and a satisfied smile on her face. And Ethan, sitting next to Patricia Reeves, looking like he was ready to go to war. The board chair, Dr. William Foster, called the meeting to order. Miss Harper, you're here today to answer to charges of ethics violations and potential HIPAA violations in your conduct with former patient Ethan Morrison. How do you plead? Patricia stood before I could speak. My client acknowledges that she maintained personal contact with Mr. Morrison after his discharge. However, we dispute the characterization of this contact as unethical. We also categorically deny any HIPAA violations, and we're prepared to demonstrate that this complaint was filed in bad faith by an individual with a conflict of interest. Veronica sat up straighter in the back. Ms. Chen, Dr. Foster said, this is an ethics hearing, not a trial. We're not here to assign blame for the complaint. We're here to determine whether Ms. Harper violated professional standards. With respect, Dr. Foster, the motivation behind the complaint is directly relevant. If this investigation was initiated by someone with a personal vendetta, then the entire proceeding is compromised. That's absurd, Veronica said, standing up. I had nothing to do with the complaint. Then why are you here? Patricia asked smoothly. You're not on the ethics board. You're not Miss Harper's supervisor. Your only connection to this case is that you're Ethan Morrison's ex-fiancé. That's a textbook conflict of interest." The room went silent. Dr. Foster looked at Veronica. "Ms. Chen, is this true? Are you Mr. Morrison's former fiancé?" Veronica's face had gone pale. "That has nothing to do with—" "It has everything to do with it." Ethan stood up. "Veronica saw me leaving Ava flowers at the hospital. She confronted me about it. She told me she'd make sure Ava paid for stealing me, even though our engagement ended 2 years ago. 2 days later, the anonymous complaint was filed." "That's a lie." Veronica's composure was cracking. "Is it?" Patricia pulled out her phone. "Because I have text messages from Miss Chen to Mr. Morrison dated 2 days before the complaint was filed, messages that explicitly threaten Miss Harper." She handed the phone to Dr. Foster. His expression darkened as he read. "These messages are concerning." He looked at Veronica. "Ms. Chen, you're dismissed from this hearing. We'll be conducting a separate investigation into your conduct." Veronica looked like she wanted to argue, but the hospital attorney gestured for her to leave. She stormed out, shooting me a look of pure hatred. Dr. Foster turned back to me. "Miss Harper, even if this complaint was filed in bad faith, the facts remain. You did maintain personal contact with a former patient within the restricted period. You did give him your phone number. These actions constitute ethics violations." "I understand that," I said, standing up on shaking legs. "And I take full responsibility. But Dr. Foster, I need you to understand something. I didn't pursue Ethan. I tried to maintain boundaries. I reminded him of the rules multiple times. But," and I glanced at Ethan, "sometimes you meet someone and you know. You just know. And I couldn't pretend I didn't feel what I felt." "Feelings don't negate professional responsibilities," Dr. Foster said. "I know, and I'm prepared to accept whatever consequences you decide." I took a deep breath. "But I'm not sorry I met him. I'm not sorry I answered his texts. I'm not sorry I let myself care about someone who cared about me. Even if it costs my career, I'm not sorry." The room was silent. Dr. Foster looked at the other board members. They whispered amongst themselves for what felt like an eternity. Finally, Dr. Foster spoke. "Miss Harper, after reviewing all evidence and considering the circumstances surrounding the complaint, the board has decided to issue a formal written warning and require completion of an ethics training course. You will also be on probation for 12 months. Any further violations will result in immediate license suspension." I couldn't breathe. That's it?" "That's it. Law reinstated effective Monday." He looked at me seriously. "But, Miss Harper, understand this. You're getting a second chance because we believe you acted out of genuine feeling, not malicious intent. Don't make us regret this decision." "I won't. Thank you. Thank you so much." After the hearing, I found Ethan waiting in the hallway. I threw my arms around him, sobbing into his chest. "It's over," he murmured. "It's finally over." "I saved you," I said. "You saved my life first. Fair trade." I should have been relieved. I should have been celebrating. But that night, lying in bed staring at the ceiling, all I could think about was Veronica's face as she'd been dismissed from the hearing. "She's going to retaliate," I told Ethan when he called. "She can't. She's being investigated now. If she comes near you—" "That won't stop her." Fear twisted in my gut. "Ethan, she has power at that hospital. She knows people. Even if they investigate her, even if they find misconduct, she's going to find a way to make my life hell. Then we'll deal with it together." But I was right to be afraid. 2 weeks after I returned, and things were different, harder. My shift assignments changed. Suddenly, I was getting all the worst rotations, all the most difficult patients. Orders I placed were accidentally delayed. Equipment I needed was temporarily unavailable. Nothing I could prove, nothing I could report, just 1,000 small ways to make my job impossible. "Someone's sabotaging you," Dr. Kim said after watching me spend 2 hours trying to find a working IV pump. "This is deliberate." "It's Veronica. It has to be." "Can you prove it?" "No." And that was the problem. Veronica was too smart to leave evidence, but I felt her presence everywhere, in the whispers that stopped when I entered rooms, in the sideways glances from administrators, in the way my schedule kept getting mysteriously altered. 3 weeks after my return, I found a note in my locker. "You think you won. You didn't. This is just beginning." My hands shook as I held the paper. No signature, no way to trace it. That night, Ethan found me crying in my apartment. "I can't do this anymore," I sobbed. "Every day is a battle. Every shift I'm looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next thing to go wrong. I can't live like this." "Then quit." He looked up at me. "What?" "Quit MGH. Come work somewhere else, somewhere Veronica can't touch you." He pulled me close. "Ava, you're an excellent nurse. Any hospital would be lucky to have you." "I love MGH. I love my unit. I love my patients." "And it's destroying you." His voice was gentle but firm. "Ava, I can see it. You're exhausted. You're scared. This isn't worth it." "But Veronica wins if I leave." "No, you win, because you get to move on with your life, you get to find peace, and you get to be with me without constantly looking over your shoulder." I wanted to argue, but he was right. The job I'd loved had become a prison. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay, I'll start looking." I gave my notice 3 weeks later. Margaret tried to talk me out of it, but I could see the relief in her eyes. One less problem for her to manage. My last shift at MGH was bittersweet. My coworkers threw me a small goodbye party. Dr. Kim hugged me and told me I was making the right choice. Even some of my former patients came by to say goodbye. As I walked out of the hospital for the last time, I saw Veronica standing by the entrance, watching me leave with satisfaction in her eyes. I thought I'd feel defeated. Instead, I felt free. I took a position at Boston Children's Hospital, pediatric cardiology, better hours, better pay, and most importantly, no Veronica Chen. And Ethan and I finally got to be together without hiding. 6 months after I started my new job, we moved in together. A beautiful apartment in the South End, with room for both of us and our complicated histories. "Do you ever regret it?" Ethan asked one night as we cooked dinner together. I thought about it, really thought about it. "I regret the way it happened," I said, finally. "I regret that we couldn't just—" I was at work when my phone buzzed with an email from an unknown sender. No subject line. I almost deleted it without opening, but something made me click. What I saw made my blood run cold. It was a detailed dossier, photos of Ethan and me together, at restaurants, walking in the park, outside my apartment, copies of our text messages from months ago, the ones I thought were deleted after the investigation, and a letter addressed to the Massachusetts Board of Registration in Nursing. "Dear board members, I'm writing to report a continued ethics violation by nurse Ava Harper, RN. Despite receiving a warning for inappropriate contact with former patient Ethan Morrison, Ms. Harper has continued this relationship and is now engaged to Mr. Morrison. This demonstrates a pattern of unethical behavior and disregard for professional standards. I am providing photographic evidence and communication records showing that Ms. Harper violated the 6-month restriction period and has shown no remorse for her actions. I believe her nursing license should be revoked permanently. I am also forwarding this information to Boston Children's Hospital, where Ms. Harper is currently employed, so they may take appropriate action. Concerned healthcare professional." Below the letter was a note. "This will be sent in 48 hours unless you convince Ethan to withdraw his complaint against me with MGH. You took something from me, now I'll take everything from you. V." My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped my phone. I forwarded the email to Ethan and called him immediately. "She's blackmailing us," I said when he answered. "Veronica. She has photos, old texts, everything. She's threatening to send it all to the nursing board and to Children's unless you drop the complaint against her. That's extortion. That's illegal." "I don't care if it's illegal. She can still do it. Even if she gets in trouble later, the damage will be done. They'll investigate me again. Children's will fire me. I'll lose my license for real this time." "Ava, breathe. We're not giving in to her. We don't have a choice." "Yes, we do." His voice was steel. "We call her bluff. We go to the police. By the time the police do anything, she'll have already sent that email." I was crying now, full panic setting in. "Ethan, I can't go through another investigation. I can't. It'll destroy me." "Then what do you want to do?" The question hung in the air. What did I want to do? Give in to blackmail? Let Veronica control our lives forever? Or fight back and risk losing everything I'd rebuilt? "I don't know," I whispered. "I don't know." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Ethan, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through every possible scenario. If I convinced Ethan to drop the complaint, Veronica would get away with everything. She'd face no consequences for filing a false ethics complaint, for harassing me, for making my life hell at MGH. And what's to stop her from making more demands later? More blackmail, more threats. But if we called her bluff, she might actually send that dossier. And even though we hadn't technically done anything wrong, we'd started dating after the 6-month period ended, it would still look bad. The optics alone could be enough to trigger another investigation. "Talk to me," Ethan said in the darkness. "I can hear you thinking." "I'm thinking about how one decision 2 years ago has turned into this nightmare that never ends." I turned to face him. "I'm thinking about how I just want a normal life where I'm not constantly looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next disaster." "Then let's give her what she wants." I sat up. "What?" "I'll drop the complaint. We'll let her think she won. And then we'll disappear." "Disappear?" He sat up too, taking my hands. "Ava, I have money, a lot of money. We could move. Not just to another city, another state, California, Oregon, anywhere you want. You could get a nursing license there. Start fresh, completely fresh, where Veronica Chen can't touch us. You'd leave Boston? Your business is here, your family." "My business is portable, and my family," he smiled sadly, "they're not as important as you. Nothing is as important as you." "That's crazy." "Is it, or is it the sanest thing we could do?" He cupped my face. "Ava, we've been fighting for 2 years, fighting to be together, fighting against Veronica, fighting against rules and boards and investigations. I'm tired of fighting. I just want to build a life with you, and if that means starting over somewhere else, I'll do it in a heartbeat." I wanted to say yes. God, I wanted to just run away from all of this. But something in me rebelled. "No," I said. "No? No. I'm not running anymore." I pulled away from him, pacing the room. "I'm not letting Veronica Chen chase me out of another job, another city, another life. I'm done running." "Ava." "We're calling her bluff." I turned to face him. "And we're going on the offensive. We're taking everything she sent us, the blackmail email, the threatening note months ago, the pattern of harassment at MGH, all of it, and we're going to the police and to the MGH board and to anyone who will listen." That's risky. Everything about us has been risky from day one. I moved back to the bed, sitting next to him. But you know what? We keep surviving. We keep making it through. Maybe it's time we stop just surviving and start actually winning. He stared at me for a long moment, then started to laugh. "You're incredible, you know that?" "I'm terrified." You're terrified and incredible." He kissed me. "Okay, let's do it. Let's fight back." The next morning, we went to the police station with Patricia Reeves. We showed them everything: the blackmail email, the threatening note months ago, the pattern of harassment at MGH. "This is definitely extortion," the detective said, reviewing the evidence. "We can bring her in for questioning. But, Miss Harper, you should know that this will become public. If we press charges, there will be a trial. Your relationship with Mr. Morrison will be scrutinized. Are you prepared for that?" I looked at Ethan, then back at the detective. "Yes, I'm prepared. Then we'll move forward." But Veronica was smarter than we thought. When the police contacted her, she claimed her email had been hacked, that she had no knowledge of any blackmail attempt, that she was a victim too. "She's lying," I told Patricia after the police informed us. "Of course she's lying, but she's also covered her tracks well. The email came from an anonymous account. There's no direct proof she sent it." "So she gets away with it again?" "Not necessarily." Patricia leaned forward. "We can still pursue a civil case, sue her for harassment, emotional distress, defamation. It won't put her in jail, but it might bankrupt her. And more importantly, it will create a public record of her behavior." "How long would that take?" "A year, maybe 2. It'll be expensive, it'll be exhausting, but if you win, it sends a message that this kind of behavior has consequences." Ethan and I looked at each other. "Let's do it," we said at the same time. The civil suit was filed 3 weeks later, and that's when things got really ugly. Veronica countersued, claiming that Ethan and I had conspired to damage her reputation and career. She alleged that I had seduced Ethan while he was my patient, that I had violated HIPAA multiple times, that I had lied during the ethics investigation. None of it was true, but suddenly we were back in legal hell, drowning in depositions and court filings and attorney fees. "Is this worth it?" I asked Ethan one night, 6 months into the lawsuit. We were both exhausted, emotionally and financially drained. The wedding had been postponed 2 times. Our relationship was strained from the constant stress. "I don't know anymore," he admitted. "I just wanted to build a life with you. Instead, we're spending every waking moment dealing with lawyers and lawsuits and—" He stopped, running his hair through his hair. "Maybe we should have just run away like I suggested." "Maybe." I felt tears threatening, "but it's too late now. We're too deep." That night, I seriously considered dropping everything. The lawsuit, the fight, all of it. Just let Veronica win and try to move on with whatever pieces of our lives were left. But then I got a call from Dr. Kim. "Ava, you need to know something. Veronica is being investigated by the MGH board again. Apparently, you're not the only person she harassed. 3 other nurses have come forward with similar stories: pattern of retaliation, sabotage, creating hostile work environments. They're building a case to terminate her." My heart started racing. "Are you serious?" "Completely. And Ava, one of those nurses mentioned your lawsuit in her complaint, said it gave her the courage to speak up. You fighting back opened the door for other people to come forward." After I hung up, As I stood there in my simple white dress, holding Ethan's hands, I thought about everything we'd survived to get to this moment. "Ready?" the officiant asked. "More than ready," I said, smiling at Ethan. We wrote our own vows, of course. When it was my turn, I looked into Ethan's eyes and spoke from my heart. 3 years ago, you saw me outside a hospital at midnight. I was soaking wet, exhausted, and trying to fix a broken umbrella. I should have walked away, should have said no when you offered me a ride, should have followed every rule in the book. But I didn't, because even then, I knew you were worth the risk. My voice shook with emotion. You've shown me what it means to fight for something real, to stand up against people who try to tear you down, to choose love even when it costs you everything. The last 3 years have been the hardest of my life, but they've also been the most meaningful because I got to spend them with you. Tears were streaming down my face now. You saved my life that night, Ethan. Not physically, but you reminded me that I was worth more than just my job, more than just following rules. You saw me, really saw me, and you decided I was worth fighting for. I promised to spend the rest of my life being worthy of that fight. I promised to stand beside you no matter what comes, and I promised to never stop choosing us, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Ethan was crying openly now. When it was his turn, he took a deep breath. Ava, I was lost when you met me, literally and figuratively. I was facing my own mortality, questioning every choice I'd made, wondering if I'd wasted my life chasing success instead of meaning. Then you walked into my hospital room, and suddenly everything made sense. He squeezed my hands. You showed me what real courage looks like. It's not about being fearless. It's about being terrified and doing the right thing anyway. You faced down ethics boards, investigations, harassment, blackmail, and a 3-year legal battle. And through all of it, you never stopped being the kind, compassionate person who made a scared patient feel less alone. His voice broke. I know I made your life complicated. I know loving me cost you jobs, peace of mind, and years of stress you didn't deserve. But I hope you believe it was worth it, because loving you has been the greatest privilege of my life. You are my home, Ava, my safe place, my reason for everything. He smiled through his tears. I promise to protect you the way you've protected your patients, fiercely and without hesitation. I promise to fight for us, always, the way you taught me to fight. And I promise that for the rest of my life, every single day, I will make sure you know that getting into my car that rainy night was the best decision either of us ever made. By the time we finished our vows, there wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. We kissed as husband and wife, and the small group of people who'd stood by us through everything erupted in applause. 1 year after our wedding, on a Friday night at midnight, I was finishing a shift at Boston Children's when my phone buzzed. Come outside, I have something to show you. I smiled, shaking my head. Even after 4 years together, Ethan still had a flair for the dramatic. I walked outside to find him standing in the parking lot with an umbrella, large, black, familiar. It was raining, just like that first night. You're ridiculous, I said, laughing as I walked over to him. I'm romantic, he corrected, pulling me under the umbrella. There's a difference. What are you doing here? Commemorating, he gestured around. 4 years ago tonight, I saw you outside a hospital at midnight trying to fix a broken umbrella, and my whole life changed. I looked up at him, this man who'd fought through hell to be with me, and felt my heart overflow. Best broken umbrella of my life, I said. Mine too. He kissed me softly. You know what else happened 4 years ago? What? I fell in love with my nurse, which was against all the rules, and it was the best thing I ever did. I thought about everything we'd been through, the investigations, the harassment, the lawsuit, the years of struggle, and I thought about where we were now, married, happy, free from Veronica's shadow, building a life that was messy and complicated and absolutely perfect. You know what I learned? I said, leaning into him as the rain fell around us. Some rules are meant to be broken. Not all of them, not most of them, but the ones that stand between you and real, honest love, those ones are worth breaking. Even if it costs you everything, especially if it costs you everything. I smiled, because in the end, what I got was so much more than what I lost. We stood there in the rain outside the hospital, just like we had 4 years ago, but this time we weren't scared. We weren't hiding. We were just two people who'd fought for something real and won. I love you, Ava Morrison, Ethan whispered. I love you too, my patient, my husband, my everything. And as we kissed in the rain, I realized that sometimes the best stories don't start with following the rules. They start with a broken umbrella, a chance encounter, and the courage to say yes when every logical part of you is screaming no. The man who saw me outside the hospital at midnight didn't just break every rule. He taught me that real love is worth fighting for, worth investigations and lawsuits and years of struggle. He showed me that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose someone even when the whole world is telling you not to. And I'd make that choice again, every single time. Because some people are worth breaking every rule for. And Ethan Morrison was mine.